Y-Combinator is considered the mecca of startups, having produced Airbnb, Reddit, DoorDash, and hundreds more, including our own Zepto. Also, recently IPO'd Misho. It is a rite of passage almost, and more difficult to get into than Harvard. How hard? According to recent reports, the acceptance rate was less than 1%. But that has not deterred the thousands who aspire to be a part of the YC batch. Very recently, I was at the Y-Combinator office in Pier 70 in San Francisco. It was once a bustling shipyard during the World War II. There is no war now, but inside the white and orange walls, founders are busy with a different kind of battle to keep up with AI. Why? Because we are witnessing one of the fastest revenue growth rates in the history of startups, powered by AI tools that have fundamentally changed who can build. For this episode of ET in the Valley, I speak to YC partner Ankit Gupta, who is navigating and helping founders navigate the seismic shift, where experience matters less than ever and pressure to move fast very high. We discuss why Indian founders are poised for this moment and whether the pressure to move fast is creating a generation of burnt-out builders or unstoppable ones. Listen on, it's Wednesday, the 7th of January. I'm Swathi Moorthy. This is the Morning Brief. Thanks a lot, Ankit. It's great to be at the mecca of AI startups in the US, where the magic happens.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. We're right in the room right next to Demo Day, so it's very fun.
So tell me, you've been associated with YC for quite a while now, first as a founder and now as a partner.
Yeah.
How has that transition been?
The transition's been a lot of fun. I think all of us just really enjoy working with founders. We were all built companies, and now on the other side of building our companies, just really love working with the next generation of companies. And so, yeah, part of me is kind of hungry to build something too. And then for the most part, it's really fun working with the next generation of them. It's been a lot of fun.
How has AI changed that? Because I think most of the companies, startups in Y Combinators are working on AI.
Yes, for the vast majority of them, AI is a component of why their idea now is possible. And for almost all of them, their idea probably wouldn't have been possible before LLMs in particular. I think in every era of startups, we often ask the question of why now? But there's some startups, and often the really big ones, happen when there's a big technological transformation moment. You look at a startup like Uber or like Airbnb that came of age in a time when cloud computing became very cheap and possible, and mobile became cheap and possible, and people could take photos of their homes very easily. And now in this new era, what we see is that, well, okay, now we have intelligence on tap, and it costs very little to access it. We're talking about cents per million tokens, meaning cents per million words. And what that means is all sorts of ideas that just wouldn't have been possible even a few years earlier. And if you look at some of the fastest growing companies, they're ones that are using this to their benefit.
Very interesting. But a large part of the startups in Y Combinator are working on AI right now. So do you also think it's maybe a little concerning? There is not much diversity.
Oh, no, I wonder what I think of it that way. The way we think about how we fund companies actually is it has less to do with the ideas than you might think. Today, most of the incredible builders are saying, oh my God, there's this incredible piece of technology. Let me build something great with it. Many are not doing that also. There's people building new robotic systems or new biological companies or in other domains. Will all those companies work out? Of course not. Totally. That would be crazy. But that's not really how we think about things. We think about it as giving as many companies with great technical builders the resources possible to try out their ideas. What's interesting is many of them pivot. It's actually kind of interesting to think about how few companies are built where the original idea becomes the final big idea. Often there are some number of twists and turns along the way. And so it's just not how we really think about things. We think of it more about, we're going to find the best builders. Best builders right now want to work on this stuff for the most part. If they change what they want to work on, then that's great. We'll support them on whatever they want to work on next.
And what kind of founders are you seeing? Because you've been with YC, associated with YC at some point for quite a long time now.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about the profile of the founders when you were a founder, then you were a visiting partner, and now a full-time partner? How has the profile of the founders changed?
I mean, I think one of the things that's really striking is that if you are a technical person right now, you have an incredible toolkit at your disposal. So one thing that's really fascinating about LLMs, especially coding agents, is that in a sense, it's democratized access to coding, right? Anyone can now make an app, which is incredible. It means that people who were not previously able to build new things can build new things. And so my wife, who's a doctor, for example, like she can now do data science without having to work with a data scientist. She can do it herself. It also means that people have insane leverage available to them. You know, like everyone 10x's, like the 1x people become 10x and the 10x people become 100xers. And so I think, this is maybe just a personal opinion, maybe this is not YC's opinion, but I think what this means is that experience does not actually carry as much of an advantage as just being an incredibly technical builder. But I think what you definitely see is that it's like, what matters much more is like ability to build and get feedback from the market versus, you know, I am already an expert with 20 years of experience in one domain and therefore I will go win. I mean, sometimes that's true also, and that's great. We're happy to fund those people too. But often you can just be a curious person and quickly find your way into a lot of expertise.
Is that why YC is seeing more younger founders in recent times? Because I mean, I was just going through the entire YC list, and there are so many younger founders now want to start up. This is something that I hear from other people too. The average age of founders is coming up, and especially so in YC. I think recently there are like two youngest founders that select as a part of Y-Combinator, two Indian kids. So yeah. So what do you think? Are you seeing the average age of founders dropping significantly in the age of AI?
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of things changing here. One is that coding agents especially have made it so that young folks who have a level of technical acumen have just incredible resources very early in their career. I think that advantages people who have a lot of time and who are just came of age in this AI era, right? There's a lot of people currently, let's say in college, you've had most of your, you know, late stage academic training in the era of AI. I think that means that they've kind of have a natural instinct to use these tools in a way that someone who has maybe been a professional programmer for 20 years, they have other advantages, like incredible advantages too, but they may not be as native users of those tools in the way that, you know, someone who's just a kid might be. I find myself having to reinvent myself doing this, like, and become a power user of these tools just to stay relevant. And so to some degree, I feel that personally too. I think another element is that colleges have changed a lot. You know, I think a lot of college education has focused on a multiple set of things. Some of it is like rote memorization and like test taking. Some of it is social aspects of college. Some of it is creative thinking and new different things. And, you know, if you think about it, it's like, I can understand how a lot of students will be like, why am I memorizing all this stuff when an LLM can just always tell me this? And I think there's still value to college. Like, I'm not someone who says like everyone should drop out or anything like that. But I can understand how a lot of students in college are kind of saying, you know, school hasn't yet adapted to the AI times. Like, maybe I should adapt to the AI times. And I think there's a lot of colleges who understand this and are trying to adapt their curriculum and whatnot, but it's hard. It's like, you know, curriculum's been kind of the same for 20 years. Can't just change it overnight. It's not trivial. And so that's a thing that all of our society is going to have to figure out how to adapt to this stuff. And so I suspect that it further means you see this young people where they're like, maybe I should just go out on my own and do it.
That's very interesting. Where do you think Indian founders, because we, at least media companies in India, writing a story about number of Indian founders or it's coming down, but is it really coming down?
That's not the sense I get. Right? We fund a lot of Indian founders. I mean, obviously, I'm American, but I have Indian nationality. You know, I was born in Delhi. I moved to America when I was young. But I think it is true that a lot of Indian founders are competing in a global market. You know, if you're building a company for the whole world, and that means that you have to like put yourself in competitive advantage positions. And so I think that changes certain dynamics, but I think there's incredible companies to be built. And I think the best companies are still ahead. There's many new companies that are going to be great. And I hope many of them are founded by Indian founders. In fact, two of YC's fastest growing companies of all time are Indian founders. Emergent is one of them, and Giga is another one. One factor has changed in the last few years, which is that during COVID, our program wasn't in San Francisco. And so there is this, you know, filter of like, well, you have to come to San Francisco for the program. And I think we fund a lot of Indian founders that move to San Francisco. I think whether they choose to move back, that's ultimately up to them. We are very happy to support them either way. I funded an Indian team, for example, for the upcoming batch. I'm very excited to work with, and they're on the way to SF right now. And that's not an India specific thing. That's like, we were funding remote companies all over the world, much more during COVID because we had to, honestly. But generally speaking, our desire to find team founders is higher than ever. Like, I mean, if you think about the factors I just mentioned, right? Heavily technical, like probably AI native, working with their close friends who are also technical. I mean, I can't think of many better places than Indian universities to find lots of those kind of people. And so, yeah, I think we would love to have them.
What are you the most excited about?
I'm excited about many things.
Yes, fire away.
So, okay, first of all, like, I'll start with something very tactical and then maybe something a little bit more like pie in the sky. So tactical is like, people say all this stuff about like valuations are high and like this and that. I don't know anything about valuations. Like, I don't do late stage investing, so I don't know anything about that. What I do know is young founders are growing the revenues of their company faster than ever. You see a striking number of companies getting a lot of revenue with like high retention and, traction that sticks around very fast. And that's quite real, right? That thought like, oh, VCs can like mark up companies' valuations or whatever, but like you can't really debate revenue. And so that's one of those things that makes it very intriguing. Where like whatever the hype or excitement or whatever may be, the thing that's very real is you're making something people want, and you can actually not debate it because it's like they're actually paying you for it. And you see this in a striking number of fields that are not historically fields you associate with buying a lot of software. And I think that's an incredible opportunity. And I think like just framing this in India's context, like I think this is where there's going to be like incredible opportunity, right? Like if you think about a place where you have growing wealth, growing technological foundation, growing universal technological access now with lots of people with payments available digitally and technology, smartphones available universally, you can only imagine like all the things that you can add intelligence to that open new opportunities. I think the broader just like little bit more pie in the sky thing. It's like this intelligence on tap concept. It's like we have models that are solving the Putnam, that are doing the hardest math and computer science and physics autonomously. And it seems unlikely to me that the only ways those are going to be used are like little chatbots that look up information. Like, oh yeah, I mean, that's great. That's fine. That's a great place to start. There's probably great companies to be built on that too. But I think we're going to enter an age of incredible scientific discovery because we're going to have every person on earth who has access to this technology is going to be able to invent incredible new things. What that tech is, I don't know, like TBD. But like,
That's going to be AI?
well, AI in itself will be a big piece of it, but I think what it enables might be like many-fold bigger, right? Like if you think about some of the biggest problems that we face in the world, like how you solve energy use, like how you make it so all the world's people are fed. Like I think these are problems where we've been like compute bound on what human brains can think of. Surely that will lead to a lot of interesting new discoveries. What those will look like exactly? Like I think we think of this as like we've achieved all this incredible stuff. And I think 100 years from now, when we zoom out, we're going to feel like we didn't even know what was coming. There's like an incredible new age of intelligence coming.
But doesn't it also mean the pressure to do something fast, break things fast is also very high?
It is true that it's a very competitive time. And in terms of how we support these founders, like we become their YC partners for life. And so there is like a level of personal relationship we build with them for a very long time. And then they have a community of other founders. I think one thing that makes being a founder high pressure is actually that less that you're getting like, your investors are forcing you to do things or something. It's that it's actually a very lonely job. Like it's a job where, your friends probably don't understand what you're doing. They don't understand why it's intense. And I think having a founder community is incredibly valuable. And I think that's one of the biggest value adds I got at YC. I find young people these days like so impressive. I think they're incredibly hardworking. They're incredibly thoughtful. There's going to be some extremes on either end, obviously. And, maybe some people should chill out a little bit and some people should work a little bit hard. I think they maybe feel some pressure, but I think mostly they have a lot of internal drive. And I think since it comes from within, I don't know that most of them feel like overwhelmed or something like that. I mean, the great thing about being a startup founder is you have agency, right? You can always tone it down if you want. It's like one of the best parts of the job is like no one telling you what to do, including your investors are like very rarely telling you what to do. I think it is true that some startup founders may feel like, okay, I need my company to grow at a certain speed or also. Like, I don't think we really think about things that way. In fact, like we give this talk at the end of YC called Don't Die. The premise is basically like, if you just do what it takes to keep going, right? Even if it's not at the optimal conditions, you keep being creative and you keep taking shots on goal. There's a very high chance that eventually it'll work out. And there's lots of evidence to support. Like I can understand how a startup founder, who's like 22 years old and right out of college might feel like, oh my God, all my friends around me, their companies are doing so well. How should I do better? I think most people channel that in a good way. Most people channel that in a way where they say, wow, okay, if the people around me have such incredibly high ceilings, like why should my ceiling not be higher? I'm sure there's like extremes where you can go too far with it. Totally. And I think my attitude towards that is generally like you have to be within your own limits and like be reasonable. And it's a marathon ultimately. You have to last a very long time doing this job for it to work out. I do think a lot of founders, maybe another reason why we see a lot of young people starting jobs is that I think they might feel like big tech jobs aren't as secure as they once were before. And I can understand how that creates some pressure in people's minds. And that is like something our society generally is going to have to grapple with. Like, I think people are going to have to become power users of these tools. And I think if we do that, there's going to be incredible new opportunities and tons of new things that we can't even imagine right now.
In the midst of all this, see, YC has always been this place, where the best of the best Airbnb started here, and we show
Grow.
we show raise up it, the most successful startups, of course, Zero. But do you see going forward, YC becoming very relevant? I know it would be. It's a different story, but I'm just trying to understand, because what was great now might not. I mean, it's very different.
Yeah.
Even though, we have seen the giants fail. So what about YC?
Yeah. I mean, it's something we think about all the time is like, what are the sets of ways that we can be most helpful to founders? I think if we maximize for what those things are, I think it'll mean YC remains relevant and exciting and growing and better. One of the things we think about is like, well, actually, the best advice that all of us got as founders was from other founders. The vast majority of it is, oh, you have this very specific problem. That reminds me of a specific problem I had or that one of the other partners had in their personal experiences running their own companies, and bringing that to bear for the next generation. And I think generally speaking, that is like an element that's very universal. And so, yeah, I think in this next era, like we have all basically tried to reinvent ourselves to be power users of the tools that everyone is using. YC itself, for what it's worth, has actually a pretty significant in-house software team. And so we ourselves are building tons of software, and the partners actually manage the software team. We have become power users of a lot of the tools that our companies are building on top of. And so we have our own kind of intuitions about what these look like, and then use those to help guide our companies. And so on top of it helping support the operations of YC itself, we can really use those to help all of our companies. Use those intuitions to help the companies.
Is there something you're looking for when you are accepting companies? I mean, Y-Combinator entry rate is just 1%.
Yeah.
And maybe it will go even below because so much interest is coming here. Is it?
It's a little below, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. The last I heard was 1%.
Yeah.
It's gone even maybe 0 point.
It's something like that. I forgot the exact number, but I think it's just around 1%. Yeah.
So what are you looking for? Had the parameters for the entry change to a certain extent?
No, it's incredible. It's we look for great builders. That's like primarily what we look for. And so what does that often mean? It tends to mean people who have backgrounds in engineering disciplines or scientific disciplines. Not unilaterally, there's people who don't, but often at least one member of their team is very technical. They have a great rapport with one another. We love co-founding teams that have known each other for a very long time. Like my co-founder was one of my college best friends. We met on the first day of college. And then some early signs of commercial instinct. Note that what I didn't say is like a certain revenue number or like a traction number or something like that. That's not really how we think about things. It's more about like founding teams that we feel like are going to stay the distance and who seem like they have great builder acumen. Like the Indian team I mentioned I funded earlier, they're best friends from college. They worked for a couple of years at companies after college in engineering roles. They're both very technical. They built an incredible prototype of a product that I played with and I really quite liked. I was very impressed with. It looked like an impressive piece of engineering. And they seem like they have a great rapport. And they seem like they have big ambitions.
I just have two last questions. It's about, if you have seen in the recent times, you have like Nisho, Grow, Zepto, all the companies the YC have funded.
Yes.
You're going to get great exits, like multiples.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're not the one who invested in these companies, but I would love to know, like, what is YC's view on this? Is it going to change? Anything?
Love it. I mean, it's great to see that. One is like, it's great to see incredible Indian companies be built. I think there's going to be even more incredible Indian companies in the future. And so first of all, that. Second, I mean, I think if you just think about the incredible value creation these companies did, if you think of a company like Grow, like both for the people who work at that company, for all of the users of their product, like getting access to this incredible piece of technology, it's just like so great to see them build this and bring it into the world. Zepto and Waymo are my two favorite first use product experiences of all time, or blew my mind. on first use. Like first time, like a Kirana dropped off, I think I ordered like a bottle of water. It came in like 10 minutes. It's like blew my mind that it's possible. And so incredible to see people build these great pieces of technology. And yeah, we want to, find the next generation of those founders. I think there's going to be many other companies that come over the next few years as these companies scale. And I think, as India becomes an increasing part of like a big global market, I think we're going to see increasingly ambitious teams. And so, I'm very excited for that.
As a closing statement, what is one thing that you are like the most excited about? And that is one thing that keeps you up at night?
I think there's no doubt that we're in a very unpredictable time, right? Like I mentioned earlier, for most of history, it's been very easy to predict what the world would look like 10 years in the future.
Yeah.
I think for most of my lifetime, it's pretty easy to predict what like 5 or 10 years would look like. Like when I was in like middle school, if I like thought about college, if someone told me what college was like, that is probably more or less what my college experience would be. And in college, someone told me like, here's what your job will do when you're 30. It's like more or less would be correct. I don't think that's true right now. I think if someone like told someone in middle school right now what their college would look like, someone in college right now what their job 10 years from now will look like, the variance on that estimate is going to be very high. It's like very improbable you're going to be correct. Because like a lot is going to change one way or another. Probably. Maybe not. Probably. And it's not that it exactly keeps me up at night because I'm probably more excited about it than concerned about it, but that's new. I don't think society has gone through like people largely agreeing that that's true for a very long time. And so, a lot might change. Like when I think about like, okay, will my future children experience school the same way as me? Seems unlikely. Yeah, it's like I think there will still be school, but I suspect it will do something very different. That's kind of crazy. And like I say that, and that's not a crazy thought. Like when people said that 20 years ago about tech changing schools, I don't think that was ever really that true. Yeah, it adjusted some things. You had computers instead of notebooks, but still school is pretty much kind of the same. Next 10, 20 years, I don't know. I don't really see that being true. I really doubt it. And so, and that's not a crazy thought, I think. I think many people would agree with that. And so most people would probably agree with that. And I think that is, maybe a little scary. Mostly exciting, but a little scary.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much.
The world Ankit describes, it's already here. Schools won't look the same, careers won't follow the same predictable path. And the gap between an idea and building a billion-dollar company has collapsed to months, not years. For founders watching from Bangalore or Mumbai, the message is urgent. The tools are democratized. The market is global. And YC is actively hunting for technical builders with ambition. Whether this keeps you up at night or gets you out of the bed in the morning probably determines whether you're ready for what comes next. That's it for today. This episode was produced by Vinay Joshi, sound designed by Amrit Reji. Keep listening to ET in the Valley, as well as The Morning Brief and Corner Office Conversation wherever you get your podcasts.